Thank you all for being here tonight and just giving me the opportunity to share with you my story of why AALEAD. I remember coming to this country about 35 years ago, and I was 6 years old. My father had left China before my family came here, and he came here early when my mom was pregnant with me, so I never met my father until I got to the United States. I'm the youngest of 5 children, and we got to Prince George's County, Maryland when we first arrived. We were really, really poor. When you listen to the speakers before me talk about not speaking a word of English, that was me. And I remember going to kindergarten, sitting there for about 6 months, crying every day, not knowing what people were saying to me, but knowing that they were laughing at me or picking at me just from the expressions. A few years later, my parents scraped up enough money and savings to open a Chinese carryout in Washington, D.C. And I don't know how familiar you are with Washington, D.C., but our carryout is located at the worst intersection, which is Benning Road and East Capitol Street, Southeast. Some of you might be familiar with a landmark place called the Shrimp Boat. Well, we were the Cadillac carryout across from the Shrimp Boat. And my dad, you know, he didn't work with us in the restaurant. He had to get a job somewhere else just to make more money. So it was just my mother, my sister-in-law, and I. My sister actually gave up 1 year of school because we couldn't afford to hire anyone to work at the restaurant. So she had to sacrifice and not go to school for a year. I went to a school called Fletcher Johnson, which was 99.999999% African American. I was the only non-African American in the whole school. There were no Caucasians, there were no Hispanics back in those days. And you have a couple of students who would come up to you and say, "Oh, can I touch your hair?" because they've never seen anyone like me. And I would have other students who would pick at me, make names, and ching chang chung was what I always heard. Some people would tell me my eyes were slanted even though I didn't think they were slanted. And my brother, George, took me to the back of the restaurant, taught me how to fight. So I had to fight about 4 or 5 different boys, not at the same time, but I had to fight 4 or 5 different boys just to prove myself and just kind of adapt to that environment. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, about 10 of us in my family. And one of the things I do now, besides owning a restaurant, is I do real estate. And I know now I take people to see these homes, and everybody's like, "Is that closet big enough? I need a bigger closet." Well, the next time you look at your closet, I want you to know that my bedroom with my sister together was the walk-in closet in that apartment. In that apartment walk-in closet, you can't put a mattress. We slept on the floor of that closet as our bed, the 2 of us. And when you look at people worried about where you put your clothes, we didn't have a lot of clothes. Every one of my clothes until I was 17 and a half were hand-me-downs that people gave us. And we would just fold them and just put them near the foot of our bed. And that's basically how we lived. We had drug dealers that just hung around outside the carryout. And they would say to me, "Little girl, do you know it's not safe to walk to school? Here, let me walk you to school." They'll walk us to school, and then a few weeks later, they'll rob the guy that came to sell us the produce. I mean, that was the environment that I lived in. There was no Asian American leads. There were no after-school programs. My parents didn't speak English. There was nobody to help me with my homework. I struggled. I did make friends there eventually, after beating everybody else up. You know, but it was a very, very tough times. And I think my prayers got answered about 5 years later when the landlord decided not to renew my parents' lease. So, you know that all that money they saved and opened that carryout, when the landlord takes the lease back, they lost everything. But that was what got me out of the hoods. And I then moved back to PG County, and I went to school there. You know, I look back, and my husband is American, and he always tells me how he had the greatest childhood growing up. And he always brags about all the fun things he did. Let me tell you, I never got to do those things, you know. I've never been to a summer program. I don't even know what, you know, now I do, but back then I didn't know that there were fun things that kids did over the summer. Nobody took me out for a bike ride or just to the park. So I look back at my life, and one of the reasons I really loved being a part of the Asian American Lead, and I thank Bon Tron for bringing me here, except the times when I'm working hard on the projects here, and then I'm going to kill them. But you know what? Organizations like this are so needed. You know, I think back, what if Asian American Leads was there for me? But I didn't have that opportunity. In fact, I didn't have an opportunity to go to college. You know, everything that I did today is just self-learned, self-taught, a lot of mistakes, and some wins and successes. So I asked everyone here today, we want to first thank you for being here, because we know that your time is very important, and your generosity to be here, be a sponsor, and be an attendee is really a lot already. But you know what? We serve about 300 children through the school year. And every summer, for those summer programs, we don't have 300 slots because we don't have the funding for them. So tonight, one of our goals is to raise about $7,000 through the red envelope. You know, the Chinese have something about these red envelopes. It's lucky money. And they say the more you give, the more lucky will come back to you. I hope that tonight, when you give with the lucky envelopes that are on your table, that you give really from your heart and realize that you are the difference. Whatever you can do, whether it's check, cash, credit card, please give, because everything you give in the red envelope will go straight to our summer program. I know that this year right now, the funding is really not there for our summer program. And so tonight, that is one of our biggest goals, because you know what? I want other children to have the childhood I didn't get to have. And I know that I work hard every day, and no matter how busy I am, I always find time to do charity work, because I want to make sure that my children have a better life than I do, and that other children have better chances to get ahead. So I thank you all so much for being here tonight, and please give from your heart. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here with us. I have a lot of thank yous to share with you. Thank you all for taking the time. I hope you're enjoying the evening. We are almost to the food portion, so you can snack on that candy that's in these little jars here. It's there for you to eat, so please. This evening would not be possible without all of our sponsors and supporters, so I really want to thank all of you for being here. At the